Quit lounging around. If you're not gonna pitch in with the chores, then leave. Rubbing the sleep out of my eyes, I pulled myself up from the couch. A quick glance at the clock told me I'd only been asleep for about a half hour. I was just trying to catch a quick cat nap during a hectic day of balancing housework and my job. But it looked like my mother-in-law Andrea had other plans. You don't deserve a break. Get cracking. If not, hit the road. That seemed to be her catchphrase every time I woke up. Was she just stuck on repeat? Half out of it, I stared back at her, thinking, is she really trying to kick me out? Well, if that's what she wants. Fine, then see ya, I said, heading to my room. Well, first off, I probably shouldn't have fallen asleep in the living room. As soon as I got into my room, I locked the door and crawled into bed. I closed my eyes, planning to get out of this house as soon as I woke up. My name is Camilla. I'm a 32-year-old who works from home. I'm married to a 27-year-old guy named Michael. He's 5 years younger and quite the looker. Because of this, our wedding drew quite a few stares and comments. When did you land such a hot younger guy? Who knew Camilla was so shallow? My friends would tease. I remember going red and retorting, it's not like that. I didn't marry Michael just because he was eye candy. Sure, I liked the way he looked, but I fell for him because I felt this need to be there for him. We both worked at the same company originally, and he was my subordinate. Among the new hires, he was diligent but also quite a klutz, prone to making errors. But rather than making things awkward, he had this infectious cheerfulness that always lightened the mood. That was the kind of guy he was. Sometimes post-work, we'd hit a bar as co-workers and have heart-to-heart chats. I thought it was best to keep it casual since we were just office buddies, but he didn't hesitate to spill his personal beans. He was still living with his folks, while everyone else was out on their own. He couldn't see the upside of moving out. He felt like his dates were more interested in his looks, and they'd often say the vibe was off in the relationship. He didn't hold back with me. Seeing his goof-ups and slip-ups at work, I knew he wasn't Mr. Perfect. But as I listened to his stories, hearing about his clumsy ways and frequent missteps in his personal life, I began to find his blunders kind of cute. I guess I fell for him before he did for me. Maybe he felt at ease because even though I was his boss and older, I never meddled or ragged on him about his personal mishaps. He started asking me out to the bar more and more. Then, when I decided to quit my job to launch my own business, he dropped a bombshell after my farewell bash on my last day at the company.
I don't want us to be separated like this. I've been holding back, but I have feelings for you. I feel at ease when I'm around you. I want you to be there for me.
That's how he professed his love, in his own kind of awkward way. When making a confession, he should have promised to make me happy. Why did he blurt out, I want you to be there for me first? His slightly goofy confession won me over, and we started dating. At this point, I probably should have sought advice about dating Michael. But thinking my friends would only rib me, I kept my relationship with him to myself. And that included my parents. Whenever my folks would pop the question,
so when's the big day?
I'd sidestep bringing up Michael. I knew if I did, they'd pepper me with a barrage of queries. Until the ring was on my finger and I spilled the beans about our impending nuptials to my kin, Michael and I were our little secret. If someone else had been in the know, they might have grilled me with, sure, he's easy to be around, but isn't he just leeching off of you, Camilla? Or, you'd go to the ends of the earth for your man, but what's he doing for you? Or exactly what is he bringing to the table, Camilla? I was usually the one footing the bill on our outings, since I was raking in more dough. Michael didn't seem to have a problem with it. In fact, I can't recall him ever reaching for his wallet when we were together. I'd fallen head over heels for him, klutziness and all, and at the time, I didn't think twice about it. Now, in hindsight, I can't help but wonder if he was just milking me for my cash. What's even worse, Michael himself didn't seem to clue in that he was mooching off me. He just took it as a given that I'd pick up the check, always grinning ear to ear and saying,
"Thanks again."
It seemed he did appreciate me picking up the tab, so it never dawned on me that I was being played. Michael seemed to have this mentality where it was normal for the older person to pick up the slack, but he also thought it was crucial to show gratitude. He didn't see anything wrong with his actions. Maybe he saw me more as a trusty grown-up than a girlfriend. In the professional world, it's par for the course for seniors to pick up the tab for their juniors, and it seemed he applied the same logic to our dates. If anyone was clued in on our dating etiquette, they probably would have raised an eyebrow. But neither Michael nor I aired our laundry in public. We decided to tie the knot without anyone flagging the quirks of our relationship. Naturally, my folks were over the moon at the mention of wedding vows. However, his mom wasn't exactly thrilled when she learned that I was 5 years his senior. She gave me the once-over, then Michael, and let loose her doubts. "Are you sure about this? You need to think about kids, too. I thought Michael could snag a younger, prettier gal." Despite her reservations, Michael just shrugged it off and quipped,
Ever heard the phrase, an older wife makes a better life? I can be a bit of an airhead at times, so having Camilla to catch my slip-ups is ideal. We're a match made in heaven, don't you think?
His mom, though caught off guard, didn't put up any further fuss about our wedding after that. I mean, she didn't seem totally against it before we got hitched, but now that we're sharing a roof, she's downright critical of our lifestyle. I can't help but wish she'd put up a fight against our marriage from the get-go if she was going to nitpick every detail of our life together now. One minute she's barking, "Camilla, you haven't cleaned my room today, have you? Get your chores done before you hide out in your room." Michael and I moved in with his folks last winter after his dad unexpectedly passed. We were concerned about his mom living solo, so Michael suggested we bunk with her. Honestly, I wasn't thrilled about shacking up with my mother-in-law, who had given me the cold shoulder right from the start. But I couldn't bear the thought of leaving her high and dry, so Michael and I ended up moving into his childhood home to keep an eye on his mom. However, this marked the start of my own personal nightmare. Despite being Michael's pick, his mom never really took a shine to me. So from the day he and I set up shop, she cornered me while he was busy nesting in his room, whispering, "This house doesn't have room for freeloaders. You'd better earn your keep." Michael had told me his mom was psyched about bunking together. But as I'd suspected, it seemed she was over the moon to have her boy back, not so much his +1. After she beat it, I let out a sigh, careful she wouldn't catch wind of it. Could I make it in this house? The verdict was out in less than 3 months of cohabitation. The answer was a resounding nope. It became clear pretty quick that a decent life with a mother-in-law like that was off the cards. I had this vague notion that moms dote on their kids even when they're all grown up. Michael's mom took the cake. If there was anything on his plate that didn't suit his fancy, she'd go out of her way to avoid it. She'd painstakingly debone fish for him. She was so over the top. I could have sworn I was seeing things and that Michael wasn't a grown man but a little tyke. However, her kindness never made it my way. Quite the opposite, she seemed to view me, her son's spouse, as an adversary and was forever saying things like, "Will you get a move on with the house chores already? I'll never understand him for bringing such an incompetent wife back home." What really got my goat was that no matter how many times I set her straight, she just couldn't wrap her head around the concept of working from home. I do work. At home. I'm not a slacker just because I work from home. No matter how many times I drove this home, she labeled me a slacker and blew a gasket over me not doing housework, hollering, "Slackers don't get a free pass." However, it was absurd how she never pulled that stunt when Michael was in the room. I figured I'd run myself ragged at this rate, so I hit record on my voice recorder, thinking I'd catch her in the act when Michael wasn't around. The moment she found me flying solo, she'd bark, "Stop twiddling your thumbs, you lazy oaf!" Using words she'd never dare utter in front of Michael. I recorded her tirades and played them back to Michael when he got back. However, after hearing it, he just shrugged it off.
Well, my mom has had her hands full as a full-time homemaker, so please grin and bear it and do your family duty.
I wanted to shout back that she was his mom, not mine. He might be okay with it because she's his mom and he's never been on the receiving end, but I couldn't stand her. I thought we should have a heart-to-heart next time, but work was piling up, and as per usual, Andrea was offloading housework onto me, and I was running on fumes. Amidst all this, I hit the wall around lunchtime and figured I'd sneak in a power nap. I crashed on the living room couch. Next time I woke up, I was planning to pull up my socks and buckle down, but Andrea jolted me awake. Quit lounging around! If you're not going to pitch in with the chores, then leave! Rubbing the sleep out of my eyes, I pulled myself up from the couch. A quick glance at the clock told me I'd only been asleep for about a half hour. I was just trying to catch a quick catnap during a hectic day of balancing housework and my job. But she had other plans. When I looked up, she was giving me the stink eye. You don't deserve a break. Get cracking. If not, hit the road. Why is she ragging on me when I'm just trying to catch some sleep? She brands me a slacker, but she's always home and doesn't lift a finger. Isn't she the real slacker here for calling me one? I was fuming because I'd been rudely roused from my slumber. My blood was boiling. And then the dam burst. Fine, then see ya. I shot back and made a beeline for my room. Well, first off, I probably shouldn't have fallen asleep in the living room. As soon as I got into my room, I locked the door and crawled into bed. I closed my eyes, planning to get out of this house as soon as I woke up. I wonder if Andrea thought I'd actually leave as she suggested. This time she didn't disturb my sleep. When I woke up, it seemed like I had slept soundly and dinner time had passed. Normally, Andrea would be saying things like, "What are you slacking off for? Michael's going to be home soon. Start making dinner now." But I didn't hear any loud voices this time. On a hunch, I tiptoed down to the first floor, making sure not to make any noise, and neither Andrea nor Michael were there. Her shoes weren't at the entrance, so I thought maybe she had gone out to eat with Michael when he got back. I didn't want to see either of them, so I thought this was a good opportunity and quickly started packing my things. As I was packing, I called a friend who lives not too far away. She listened to my story from beginning to end, exclaimed, "What? Your mother-in-law's the worst. Run away. I'll help you escape," and drove up to our house in a small truck an hour later. By then, both Andrea and Michael had returned from their meal, and they were shocked to see the truck parked in front of the house. Even more so when they saw me loading my belongings onto it. Seeing this, Andrea was practically grinning as if she was saying, "Finally you're leaving. This is refreshing." Michael, standing next to her, looked bewildered. Maybe it's because she hasn't yet grasped the reality that she's able to look like that. Michael approached me with a worried look.
Camilla? What on earth? Are you collecting trash?
He's the kind of person who didn't think it was a big deal even after hearing the recording of his mother's verbal abuse towards me. He probably doesn't know how much pressure I've been under from her. Or rather, he doesn't want to know. If he looks at the stuff in the truck, it should be obvious that I'm not here for trash collection, but to leave this house. He wasn't even aware of the furniture I owned. What's in the truck is all the furniture I had. In the end, he wasn't interested in me at all. I glanced at Andrea and then looked at Michael. I decided it was time to confront them with the reality that I hadn't brought up until now. "I told you that your mom was verbally abusing me when you weren't home, right?"
Oh, the verbal abuse. You mean the thing you let me hear the other day? I think it's okay not to worry too much because I don't think Mom meant it.
What do you mean, it's okay not to worry? I consulted you because I was troubled. I can't understand why you're so carefree and cheerful. Seeing me without a smile, Michael began to fluster. Andrea, perhaps hoping that I would leave Michael based on this opportunity, was smirking while watching our exchange. It seemed like she hadn't considered at all that he would be disillusioned by hearing about what she did. You knew I've been busy recently. Despite me telling her several times, your mother kept calling me a slacker, interfering with my work, and dumping all the housework on me. Even when I told her I didn't have time, she pushed everything on me, looking for things she didn't like to criticize me. I'm done with this lifestyle. Michael, who had never seen his mother in such a state, couldn't believe my words and stammered.
That can't be...
If you don't believe me, that's fine. I'm not thinking of asking you for help anymore. In the first place, has there ever been a time when you did something for me? At this remark, even Andrea, who adores her son, seemed to be taken aback. She shouted at me, "What a thing to say while being supported by Michael!" But the one who went white as a sheet at those words wasn't me. It was Michael. Sure enough, there was a tiny detail he hadn't shared with his mom.
Hold on. Mom, I'm supporting Camilla?
As he blanched at her remarks, he grabbed at his mom's sleeve. But Andrea, feeling slighted by her son, wouldn't let up. "This unemployed woman living off Michael's dime. Can you believe it? Not only does she lack gratitude, but she also holed up in her room avoiding chores. So much for an older wife making a better life. I had to boot her out because my son doesn't need a wife who sits around. Now he can just take care of me, and that's one less worry, right?"
Whoa. What did you just do?
He piped up at Andrea, who was running high on adrenaline. Of course, she thought she was doing me a solid by kicking me out for his benefit. She was thrown off when he lost his cool, unable to comprehend why. "What's the matter, Michael?"
I'm unemployed.
"Come again?" "Yes, Michael is currently out of work. In fact, he's been jobless for a year now. He would return home empty-handed from job hunting, saying he couldn't find a job that fit him. By now, he's probably just loafing around, no longer seriously job hunting. The reason he's managing even in such a state is because I quit my corporate job, launched a startup, and have been steering the ship. He had been dragging his feet on job hunting, thinking it was fine since I was making money. That being said, of course, I was the one footing all the bills at Andrea's place. She must have some savings from her late husband, so she and Michael might be fine for a while, but if Michael remains jobless, they'll probably hit a rough patch in the future. But that's not my problem. I've been contemplating divorce for some time. I mean, a husband without a job and a mother-in-law who enjoys making my life miserable? But living alone sounds heavenly compared to this. Saying that, I handed Michael a lawyer's business card. He looks like he's about to burst into tears. His mother is standing next to him, frozen in place, mouth agape, unable to grasp what's happening.
What am I gonna do without you, Camilla?
Who knows? You're a grown-up. Don't count on people to take care of you forever. He lost his job because he couldn't handle his responsibilities, kept screwing up, brushed it off without reflection, got shifted to a less significant department, and quit his job, saying,
I didn't work my butt off to end up in a department like this.
Reflecting on our relationship from our dating days to now, it feels like he was more intent on finding a caretaker than in loving me. I did love his goofy side, but my one-sided commitment wore me thin. Plus, with the constant nagging from Andrea, I've had it. Well, now that you two won't have a jobless wife around, I hope you get along. I'm not planning on looking after you guys anymore. With that, I quickly hopped into the passenger seat of the small truck. As I was leaving,
Don't go for the divorce. Please, don't leave me.
Michael tried to stop me, but my friend yelled, "Zip it, freeloader!" And he finally seemed to get a grasp on his situation and fell silent. Since then, I've started living alone. It seems like Michael and Andrea sold the family home. They probably realized they couldn't maintain the house with two unemployed people. I heard from a friend that the two of them are now working part-time at a supermarket, but that's none of my business anymore. Now I've put them behind me and I'm using my work time at home effectively without anyone bothering me.